record on there.
Right on, we're going.
Recording there. And then I will be able to share the screen in a minute.
We'll just wait for a few, and
yeah,
for the participants are just filing in right now still. As long as the number keeps climbing, then we'll just hang tight for a second.
Okay.
Steady stream of updates right now.
Right.
We're just letting everybody still come on in.
Yeah, I'm in no rush.
Okay.
All right on. Look at that over your left shoulder. That ain't bad, huh? A little Hall of Fame there.
Yeah, that's the Hall of Fame. That thing's heavy, man.
Is it?
I never wear shoes in the house, so that thing falls, my feet are toast.
Awesome.
You guys have Jackie. Jackie, Paul's her dad. She's, I think, 17 in the league. What's her last name? I forget. She's a high level player. So there's all sorts of super high level players from the very beginners to the elite teams on this call, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And how many kids are in the club altogether, San Juan?
We
got about Ron.
700, I believe. We're about 700 members. You're at.
Oh, geez, that's wild, man.
Yeah. So we got, and then we just built the sport our own complex out there by Sunrise and 50. So we have our own fields now. So it's pretty good, big complex, and much like you now, trying to navigate with our own complex, you with your gym. So
yeah,
yeah,
nuts, man. And what's the square footage of the gym, of the facility?
Gosh, Ron, I mean, we have three fields out there, 2 full-size fields that are pro size that can go 11v11, a men's game.
Oh, wow.
We have a smaller field that's really probably more of a 9v9 field. So 3 fields out there, and it's all turf with stadium lights. So we can train all through up into the night.
Yeah, all outdoor stuff.
That's sweet, man. That's really cool.
Yeah,
for sure.
And the season is to a halt, correct?
Correct. So we're doing, I don't know what you're doing in terms of, we'll jump into that, Uriah, but like we're doing Zoom ball mastery workout stuff with our kids online.
Right.
So we're trying to work out through the Zoom, just trying to be creative.
Yeah.
On that.
Right. I think we've kind of settled in with the good number of participants. We'll have people jumping in, over the time. So we're going to try to stay on time here. So that's probably the right thing to do. So we're recording and we're rolling, and welcome everyone to our Together Thursday broadcast, San Juan Soccer Club. Tonight we have a special guest, Urijah Faber, California kids with us. Hey,
yeah. What's up, guys? How are you?
Uriah, you and I met probably 20 years ago now, man. You're really close friends with Dustin, my cousin. You guys went to UC Davis together. You guys were roommates. You were his best man at his wedding. And I think the one thing for me that I've admired the most, and I don't get to see you that often, but just from afar, is over those 20 years, how grounded you've remained. Because I remember the first night we all went out, and this fun-loving kid, and since then, for 20 years, you've just blown up and had this huge success and amount of fame. And for me, just watching you continue to remain grounded has been pretty special. I think that's really unique. And I think for us, it's just an important message for all our athletes, young athletes aspiring to be great, to be able to have a role model like you. I think that's super important. I'm sure a lot of that has to do with probably the way you were raised and the people you surrounded yourself with. And, we'll jump into those questions in just a minute. But to get rolling, I just want to play a really quick clip of your Hall of Fame career. And so I'm going to do that now for the viewership. And then we'll hit questions and answers in just a minute.
Cool.
California kid, Urijah! will be your lasting memory of Urijah Faber? For the last decade, the California kid has done it all. He stood toe-to-toe with the best in the world. He reached the highest highs and earned the unwavering respect of his peers. What will it be that stands out most in such a storied career? Will it be at WEC 19 when he fought Cole Escovedo for the featherweight title and announced his arrival with the first punch he threw? That punch was symbolic of everything to come. When he tapped out Dominic Cruz at WEC 26 in his backyard of Sacramento. Or that just when we dubbed him a submission specialist, he stunned Jens Pulver with a right hand. Maybe it was that he put Sacramento on the map with his gym, Team Alpha Male, which helped launch so many careers.
I think everyone has drawn a little inspiration from Urijah, even from the outside. So being on the inside personally and drawing inspiration from him every day for 10 years, it's definitely just impacted my life and my career hugely, knowing the guy.
Team Alpha Male has been a big part of my success, but it's also been a part of what I'm giving back to the sport. It's created some of the best fighters in the world, some of the most notable fighters in the world, and it's really a big extended family. So it's something that I can be a part of, helping that next generation of fighters, get to that top level and have a lot of success inside and outside the octagon.
Perhaps you'll remember the lights dropping, the crowd rising, and Tupac's California Love blaring over the speakers. Maybe you'll remember the cornrows, and how could you forget the surfer attitude? Never needing to be angry at an opponent to sell a fight. Was it that he was more than a five-time defending champion in the cage, but also a champion for his teammates, even after a tough night?
TJ Dillashaw is a up-and-coming guy. If anyone deserves a shot, man, give it to him.
He didn't always win, but he was never anything other than dignified in defeat. He ducked no one. Whether it was a prospect, a champion, or a name nobody wanted to fight. Though the game changed in the decade that he competed, the California kid was always himself.
Urijah Faber is a legend, man. Big staple in the sport.
Kind of the pioneer for us little guys. He's probably one of the most successful bandweights in the world that we've ever seen.
He is everything that you aspire to be when you want to become a fighter.
Whatever your memories are of Faber, know this: there is no wrong answer. He left his mark in a very difficult game, and he did it all with a smile.
Awesome.
How was that?
That was great.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's not bad. So everyone, just a quick introduction here of Ron Shackelford is with us. I'm Ron Trengo, San Juan Soccer Club board member. And again, we're talking to Urijah Faber here tonight. Wow. Actually, dude, you might have to hook me up with your cornrow, dude, if this thing continues here. It's getting a little long.
The quarantine.
Was that shout out right there for your dude?
That's great.
No, that's the quarantine.
Yeah.
The quarantine here, buddy.
I know. It's happening.
Not safe to get that haircut.
No, I'm good. Hey, so let's. So you're a Sacramento guy, actually born Isla Vista, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I was born in Isla Vista, and then I lived in Sacramento most of my life. So I moved here when I was 3 or 4, something like that. I was in the San Juan school district. So my stomping van right there in Carmichael. I went to Mission Avenue Elementary School, and my brother went to Churchill and in El Camino, and I moved out to Lincoln for junior high and high school. So I'm a Sac guy.
Yeah, it's your Casa, right? A Ram. You were a Ram.
I was my brother was at El Camino,
okay.
and I went to Lincoln. I was a Fighting Zebra.
So
I don't know what the El Camino is. I'm not sure what their mascot is.
Eagles.
Fighting Zebra's got to be the best high school nickname ever, right?
That's a good one. Rare.
That's got to be the best one. So obviously, when did you start wrestling? Was that were you like a baseball kid, basketball kid, or do a little everything and then go, hey, I'm going to try this wrestling deal? Or how'd that all come about?
So my first passion was football. I played, football since I was a little kid. I played flag football in at Mission Avenue, and then I played Pop Warner contact football out at the Sacramento Saints at the time. That was at Hiram Johnson. So we had, lived out there and commuted to school at Mission. Was a little bit in the ghetto over there at the time, but had a good time with that. But wrestling for me was something I always wanted to do. It was appealing to me, but I never got the opportunity until I was in the 8th grade. And I was starting late. Guys had started wrestling when they were 5, 6 years old, and I started when I was 12, 13 years old. So I was getting my butt kicked at first. I had one tournament that I went to that was a like a beginner's tournament. I had some success there, and that really lit a fire under me. I started going to wrestling camps and doing freestyle wrestling in addition to the junior high and high school wrestling, and made it a real passion of mine. So football and wrestling were kind of hand in hand at that point, and continued wrestling into college at UC Davis.
Yeah. So how was that journey from high school to college? Were you trying, like, working hard on the recruiting aspect, or did it just kind of, you're like, I'm going to be an Aggie and I'm going to make that work no matter what? Or what was that like? Because most of our olders are going through that journey right now, trying to figure out what they want to do at the next level.
Well, for me, I was just always about just putting my best effort in. So it wasn't like I had a history of folks in my family that had gone to college, and the process was something that was real familiar. So I had always just been working really, really hard. I was doing my best in all my classes. I had good grades. I did okay on the SATs. I was in school leadership. They have something called Boys State, which is, for the, like a well-rounded senior boy and a well-rounded senior girl that get to go and represent the school, and it's like a mock government. So I was definitely at least putting the ducks in a row to be able to go to college. And I didn't know what that looked like, and I was applying to anywhere that had wrestling at the time. And I was really enjoying my senior year. Class of 2020, I feel for you, not getting to finish out all the traditions and the things that come with your senior year because of this pandemic, but didn't even go on any recruiting trips. I had letters from multiple schools, and so I just applied to all the schools in California that had wrestling programs, and Davis was close to home and a great school academically, and so ended up going there and walking onto the team the first year.
Yeah, right on. That's your grades were no joke, because UC Davis doesn't let anybody just roll onto campus. So good job with that. That's awesome. Shaq's got a question for you.
Yeah. You're right. I think with a lot of the kids that are going through that recruitment process, when you go walk on and there's no scholarship offered, at what point, what gave you that confidence to do that, number one? And number two, at what point then did you get the scholarship? So I just want to get that message out to players that, look, you didn't have the scholarship to begin with, but you walked on. Was it that you were sizing kids up that were at the college? You're like, hey, that guy's got a scholarship. I think I can work my way into that. How did that work?
It was just kind of a self-belief thing, and really kind of being just not really knowing how things work, but believing in myself. And because I got a late start on my wrestling career compared to a lot of the guys that were getting scholarships and having, major success in high school. And I had pretty good credentials. I was top 12 in the state. I was a overtime match from being an All-American, which is top 8. I went to the tournament a couple different times, and I'd only been wrestling for 4 years. So I was doing that extra work, and I've met guys that had started way before me and that had a big head start, that were just kind of doing the bare minimum, and it was okay for them. But for a guy that's doing double, you're going to catch up. I don't care if a guy's here and I'm here, I have to do, twice as much or be twice as intelligent or work work harder or whatever it is to catch this person, unless this person's just chilling. If he's doing the same thing that I'm doing, the chances of me catching him are not very good. But if I'm doing the things I need to close those gaps, then then it's doable. And that's what I was doing. And unknowingly, I had to do that in order to quench my own thirst, to not be getting my butt kicked and have the success that I wanted. I was doing the chasing game, and that's continued throughout my life. In any aspect. So I just believed that I could, and wasn't afraid to take the steps towards making it happen, which is all the success that people talk about, hard work and the mentality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So when did you get the scholarship, Urijah? So you walked on after your freshman year, or when did that happen for you?
Yeah, so I was a walk-on. Just basically means you're not getting a scholarship. I had lost to 4 guys my senior year in high school, and 3 of those wrestlers, Larry Rodriguez, Tom Barwis, and Nick Saldivar. Those are 3 guys that had beat me in high school that ended up going to Davis, the same weight class. But I had done when I went in my senior year, or my freshman year in college, I have hyped it up. Man, this is Division I wrestling, et cetera, et cetera. And I was still in that mentality of catching up. So I went and I had done a whole conditioning season with the junior college at Sierra College prior, and that camp prior, I had also worked at a wrestling camp where I was doing all the workouts at Hitchcock Azevedo. So I came in, and I was surprised I was in the best shape on the whole team. I had seniors and juniors and freshmen, the guys that had beat me in high school, and I was blowing past them in the runs, and I was outworking them in the room, and I was like, I was shocked because I was just under the impression that everybody was taking it as serious as I was, and it wasn't the case. So after that first year, I beat the guys that beat me in high school. Then I was offered a scholarship, and from then on, I was the starting guy at UC Davis, and I set the record for all-time wins, and I made it to the national tournament multiple times, and was ranked as high as top 7 in the nation, and finished second at University Nationals. So the catch-up game and the mentality of doing more and just not being satisfied is what panned out for me. Each year, my scholarship increased.
That's awesome. Great story. Thank you.
Yeah, it's funny is I've been doing a lot of interviews in another session with a bunch of our alumni that have, they've gone on, played pro ball or college, whatever, and every single one of them, their advice to incoming freshmen is be in the best shape you've ever been in your life and show up ready to roll. So you nailed it. Just what they said as well, man.
Yeah, I was just swinging from the hip on that one. Little fear sometimes can be a good driver.
Absolutely. So you graduated on time, 4 years, 5 years. What was that?
Yeah, 4 years and a quarter.
Okay.
Or wait, was it? Yeah, I just all the way through the wrestling season, I think is what it was. So I redshirted 1 year, and then started 4 years. So it was 5 years of wrestling, and I didn't have to finish the whole year of my last year.
Yeah. So what year was that? What year did you get out of Davis?
That was 2003. I graduated high school in 1998, and I graduated college in 2003. And then I stayed on as a wrestling coach when I started my career in mixed martial arts. I was coaching at UC Davis, which was, in retrospect, I was well below the poverty line, and bussing tables. And I was actually living with Ron's cousin Dustin at the time. He had a real job. My other buddy had a real job. And I was like, I was cheating the system by living the dream. I was coaching kids, and I was doing fights for a couple $100, and I was bussing tables and coaching wrestling at summer camps over the summer, having a good time, and working really, really hard, but not getting paid very much. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, those were like, you're in a parking lot at an Indian casino, right, or something like that, and just trying to get it going. So But before that, I mean, wrestling, obviously, tough guy thing, man. Big time strength, big time mental, big time physical, big time technique. But how do you go from that to go, yeah, I don't mind getting hit in the face, and I don't mind the guy kicking me in the thigh 20 times in a row. I mean, I mean, that's a big step, man. I mean, even no matter how tough you are, how does that?
Yeah.
How do you decide that that's? I mean,
Well, in my opinion, wrestling's harder than the fight game. I mean, of course, there's the aspect of getting hit in the face and whatnot, but it was something that appealed to me since I was a little kid. Contact sports were something that just appealed to me. I don't know if you choose wrestling or wrestling chooses you, and I think it's kind of the same for the fight game. I always had kind of internal, feeling that no one could beat me up, and I wasn't allowed to fight as a kid. My parents were awesome, and it wasn't allowed. Not that I didn't get in a couple of scraps here and there growing up, but not very often. I think one in high school, and then a couple in college when you get into an environment where there's all sorts of people with different rules and all the things you're introduced to there and whatnot. But it was just something that sounded like it was appealing. It was illegal at the time. So in California, it wasn't legal for mixed martial arts to occur. So it all happened on Indian casinos on sovereign land. So It wasn't like it was like it is today on ESPN and Fox and known worldwide. It was very under the radar. There was only a couple organizations. The highest paid guys were not making very much money. There's only 3 events a year for the UFC, and that was the lightest weight class was 170 pounds. I wrestled 135 pounds or 133 pounds in college. So it was kind of an unrealistic thought that I would go make a career at this, but I was all gung-ho on being a guy that attacks that as my passion.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, Shaq, go ahead.
So Uriah, you have a baby girl now. I've got 2 kids that we're raising. In terms of finding that motivation from mom and dad, how much of a part did they play, and maybe at what part did they start? Because I think as parents, we're always trying to figure out how much do we push our kids? How much are they going to go out and do it on their own? What was your message? Kind of what was that from your parents?
I had ultra supportive parents, but not parents that had a plan for what I was doing. They were kind of like hippie parents. I was born into an environment where I, was pretty much running around naked till I was like 3 or 4 in Santa Barbara. And then, they were always just supportive of what I wanted to do, but didn't have a lot of direction they were trying to push me into, just kind of seeing what I liked and going from there. But I think the biggest thing, and I give all the success to my parents, is just that undying support. I felt like, no matter what I was doing, they were proud of me regardless of the result, and they were encouraging me. I remember my mom giving me a pep talk once I started wrestling and just saying like, if you're going to do this, why don't you be the best at it? And why don't you put all into it and just, kind of mind tricking me a little bit. We used to have big, sayings on the refrigerator, like dream impossible dreams. And when those dreams come true, make the next ones more impossible. And my mom used to have us write down our goals, and wasn't super planned about writing down our goals. It was just, make sure you write down your goals. It wasn't with like what I've broken down to a little bit more of a planned goal setting, but super positive, not perfect. My parents were divorced when I was in kindergarten. They, I split time between the 2. Both of my parents worked a lot. I was at home a lot with my brother, but definitely felt the love, felt the support, and so my dad is like the happiest guy on the planet. He's just, I describe him as like he's like a dog. You could leave him outside, forget to feed him, and kick him and everything. He'd be all happy to see you when you get home. So
That's awesome.
that kind of mentality has been passed on to me. And then the work ethic. My parents were always hard workers, and they really believed that I could do anything, and they made sure I felt that way. And then they left it up to me to attack the path.
That's interesting, you're right, because with both parents working, and then you're left home a lot to figure things out and to stay in shape. And I know you guys, super healthy nutrition was big when you were growing up. There still had to be some motivation from within that you just grew up with, that you, if you're left home alone like that.
Yeah, I think there's definitely pride in just doing your best at things was always hit home for us, and confidence. I mean, I can think of all sorts of times when I just was getting outpouring of positivity and encouragement from my parents. If the time that you're getting and the energy that you're getting is quality, it's not about quantity as much as just quality in those kind of situations. So, and health was a big part of my upbringing. I was never really used much conventional medicine. We had super healthy, eating regimens, and used like natural remedies because we're trying to always treat the problem, not the symptoms of whatever was going wrong. So we're tough. We were different. We weren't afraid to be different. My lunch didn't look the same as most people's lunches. We didn't have the snack candies. It was more like veggie tacos with avocado and brewer's yeast and all sorts of weird stuff that no one wanted to trade. But
awesome.
It was all about being an individual and doing your best and believing that anything's possible.
That's great.
Right on. Hey, so just a reminder to the audience, there's a Q&A box down below on your screen. Questions are beginning to stack up already for a little session at the end. Get in line because we're going to try to get to as many as we can at the end, but want to be mindful.
As with Jackie Santos on there, I saw her dad, Paul's a good friend of mine, and he sent me a couple pictures of the surgery that she had in her, I think it was her junior or senior year in soccer, and she's supposed to be on here. So if you're there, Jackie, what's up? I hope you're doing good. That was a nasty cut. She had her whole leg split open with and I know she's coming back to hopefully go compete in college next.
Yeah, right on.
Up, Jackie?
Good shout out there. Right on. So listening to you, doing a little homework about you, listening to some interviews, and just hearing you today, it's really about your mental game, man. It seems like you decide that you're going to do something, or you decide you're going to get fit, or you decide you're going to learn the technique, and it's you're all in. It's you go. And so preparing for matches like our young athletes do prepare for matches. We watch film just like you guys watch film. But we're preparing for probably 90 minutes, maybe plus. I mean, yours could be, you could train for a few months and be over in 45 seconds, right? So,
yeah.
How do you have that mental, what do you do for your mental game to just stay sharp and be ready to go every single time?
I had a good experience as a junior, and the way a lot of things happen is you accomplish things, then it makes you think bigger. Then you accomplish more things, it makes you think bigger and bigger and bigger, and you can take that in any way that you want, in any direction, whether it's business or sport or whatnot. I had a year in college, I think it was my sophomore year, where I lost probably, I think 12 or 13 matches by 1 point or overtime.
Wow.
And then my junior year, I had won about the same amount by 1 point or overtime. And I just made a mental note of, because I was a hardworking guy. Like I said, I was always on that catch-up game, and I was trying to be the first on runs and do extra things, do workouts on my own, and looking for advantages however I could. So when I had the year as a sophomore and the year as a junior, I just remember the difference in how I felt. Even if I got, didn't agree with the referee, like I got ripped off, I thought, and I had lost the match, even though I felt like I won it, I would still feel like crap after my losses. And then, turn around the other side, even if I had gotten a bad call and I didn't really feel like I won, but they said I won, I'd feel great for the week. And it was just such a weird thing. So what I found is you can take away some of the regret. You can help build your confidence. You can, get that edge by just knowing in your heart that you've done the preparation. That's the piece that allows you to have no regrets, is when you're somebody that has prepared and you've done everything that you were supposed to, and you know that you've pushed yourself to the utmost. You know that you've surrounded yourself with the right people, and that you've, given yourself the advantages to compete at your best. And then you get the opportunity to put it out there. Things aren't always going to go perfect, but, it allows you to have the relief that you did the best you could. And for me, that was the biggest thing, because I've had plenty of losses in fights. I've had so many title fights that I've lost, and had time and time again, I've fought back to get the opportunity, and it hasn't always gone my way. And so it's something that I'm kind of known for, is just staying positive throughout the ups and the downs. And it's because of that, because I've done the preparation. I know that I put in the work where I needed to. And so I can't ever really, be down about that.
Yeah. It's funny. You just I love that part of it, because shows how you're always grinding, because you kind of just described it. People don't know you or your record. You just kind of described yourself as like a 500% win journeyman, but I mean, you've won 4 times and you've lost, right? I mean, you've 40 and something, 36 and 11. What's your final record right now? Well,
I think something like that. I think it's like 36 and 11, something like that. A lot of that comes from the wrestling room, and in the wrestling room, and this is just like competition. You can relate it to anything, but there's days where you're competing in a room. There's 36 guys on a team, only 11 spots. Guys are fighting for the same position. Actually, Nash Jones is on this call right now. His dad was one of my main training partners, Dr. Kevin Jones. I mean, I remember, and then Jeremiah Jarvis, he was another guy that was on our team, and it was a competition to get the time mile. Who could get under 5 minute time mile? And I know Kevin Jones, Nash's dad, and JJ both got under 5 minute miles. My best time was a 5:09, but I mean, I remember going to war with Kevin Jones and with Jeff Bristol and all these guys, and those are your friends, that's your closest group, and you're fighting for the same position, and you're daily basically trying to beat each other up in the room. And so it forces you to kind of separate the hard stuff from the things that are really important, and vice versa. And I hear a lot of people talk about getting burnt out. I've got burnt out. I feel like that's an excuse for when you want to quit. I was burnt out. I was burnt out. Look, there's the things that you envision, the things that you want, the things that you dream of, and then there's the hard work that you have to do to get that. Now, if you're able to separate the hard work from the things that you want, that makes it a lot easier. This isn't hard work. This is me chasing what I want. This is me chasing my dream. Separate I'm starving and I'm, I just cut my chin for the 40th time and got stitches in my chin on Kevin Jones's head, or whatever the deal is. It's about, understanding that everything that you're doing is for a purpose, and that purpose could either be to be a world champion. It could be to hold your head high and take the lessons on to whatever you're doing next, whether it's starting a family or getting a job, or, being a student in college, or whatever it is. Having these feathers in the cap where you're excited about the things that you've accomplished, then you can stop wherever. But while you're doing something, you have to be full in, focused, and go hard at it.
Yeah, right on. Ironically, you mentioned the room in the wrestling room, the number 11. That's exactly what the number of starters are on a soccer field. And we'll have a roster of 18, 19, 20, and they're all fighting to be in that first 11. So I was that's pretty cool parallel there. Shaq, what do you got, buddy?
Hey, you're right. In terms of, if you were to rate, when you have the mental side of the game, you obviously see a ton of fighters that are going to come through Team Alpha Male, natural ability, that hard work ethic that you're talking about. In terms of rating those of importance, where do you kind of stack those up with the mental, the natural ability, kind of that workers mentality?
That's a great question, because you see this time and time again. Remind me, I'll tell a story about touchdown Tilton on my high school football team. But, you know, the biggest thing is, and it's not just mentally tough. Like, you know, there's a lot of things that make you mentally tough. You know, run into a wall or, you know, whatever the deal is. But the belief system, and I've always tried to dissect what I think the most important things are in champions and people that rise to the top. And I've met people from all different walks. I've met, you know, billionaires and you know, professional athletes and actors and directors and great, you know, kids that have gone through tough adversity and stay positive and all these different things. But the self-belief is one thing, and confidence, you have to build that. But actually, and working hard is super important, but actually how big are you thinking? That's the question. And that's what I found with guys like Conor McGregor and you know, Mark Cubans and the people that I've been in touch with that you say, wow, this is an incredible person. What are these things that I'm finding that are common? It's this incredible, almost delusional belief and that anything's possible. And then you have to add in all the other pieces, which is the, you know, being mentally tough, getting knocked down when you or getting back up after you get knocked down, and knowing that things aren't going to be perfect and pushing through. Surround yourself with the right people and all these other things. But this mindset is the most important thing. And I've seen a ton of great athletes come in, and it's about the longevity. It's about how long are they willing to work? How consistent can they be? How much do they actually believe in themselves and what they're doing? And how big are they thinking? There's a kid I was mentioning, touchdown Tilton, and he was I think a junior, maybe he was a sophomore, and he had one catch in a football game, and he was not the best guy on the team, but everyone started calling him touchdown Tilton, almost like sarcasm. You know, he had his one touchdown, he had a catch, and I remember he was a sophomore when I was a junior, and he ended up putting in so many hours just having balls thrown at him over and over and over and over again, and he like manifested into touchdown Tilton. By his senior year, he was like the guy, and I think it was sparked by that bit of sarcasm, like people saying it, and he was just like believing it and feeding into it and just made it a reality. I had another guy on our team that had a mental break, like a real mental break, and he had basically a bout of schizophrenia. If it doesn't go past a certain amount of time, it's just a bout. It's not an actual like, hey, you have it. It's like they had an episode of schizophrenia.
Yeah. During
this time, this guy, and he was a friend of ours. He wrestled with us in college. Now he wanted to get in the fight game, everything else. And he was like out of his mind doing the weirdest stuff in practice. And we all just accepted him because he was our buddy. We thought it was kind of funny. He was like doing weird stuff. He was like leg sweeping a, you know, heavy bag and like all this kind of stuff. And we ended up having an amateur fight. He was adamant about wanting to get on it. And he thought he was going to get sponsored by Pepsi and all this wild stuff. And he ends up truly in his heart, because he was nuts, thinking he was invincible, and just walked through a really tough opponent. And we were all shocked when he did this. Later, he got his mind about him. He wasn't as tough of a fighter after that. But it was just kind of a testament to truly believing in something, like truly, truly believing. Even though he was crazy, he was truly believing in it. And I've seen Conor McGregor do the same thing, where he's like talked, and next thing you know, he's worth a couple $100 million. And it's like, dang, how come, you know, the rest of the guys that are as good as him aren't doing this? But he talked it into reality. So, you know, I don't like to have people that just talk, but voicing what you want to do is okay. You know, that's accountability. When you say you're going to do something and then you make adjustments, you have your thing that you want to do, then your theory of how you're going to get there, then you do it a check. Did I get there? Well, maybe not. Okay, let me change my theory how I'm going to get there. And you keep changing that over time until you get it right. And then you don't quit. So I've seen that kind of mentality really take people a long ways.
Yeah, right. So, are you like you read a lot of books, or you have a mind coach at that helps you out on your team Alpha, right? Don't you?
We've done a lot of stuff. I had Jim Peterson, who for a long time we all had a bunch of houses on the block, who used to put us through group sessions. He's actually a principal. I forget which school it is out here in Sacramento. Jim Peterson, some of the players might know him. He's awesome. He helped us out a lot with putting together programs for our guys. I've had a personal coach at times, and then I'm part of a group called EO. Actually, Katie Smith should be on this call right now. She's another one of your soccer players. Her dad, Jeff Smith, is in my EO group, and that's just a group of peers that are bouncing ideas off of each other. We go in and we communicate, not through telling each other what we're going to do or what we've done, or giving advice, but actually communicating in our experiences. And so I'm constantly trying to learn in different areas. Fighting is one way that happens. In the business world, as a parent, whatever. I'm always trying to get some more knowledge from other people, have an open mind, to be humble, and try to improve, because there's always more that you can do, and there's always people you can learn from. There's always people that are better than you at something, and the more I can surround myself with folks that are better than me or smarter than me or have something that I can learn, I try to do that. So shout out to Katie and Jeff Smith.
I coached Katie.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, Jeff's been on my sideline for many years. Yeah, good guy.
He's a great guy.
For sure.
I think that's great, man, because hearing other people's stories, sitting around, whatever, the campfire, outside, and just hearing stories, learning from others' experiences and trials and tribulations and stuff, because, going back to preparation for a game, for a fight, you might have it all dialed in. You might go, yeah, man, we're going to get this team. We're going to get this guy because I can defend this way. I can attack this way. And then the whistle blows or the bell rings and you break your hand, or one of your players gets a red card, or you know what I mean? And things go haywire. So having all those experiences, I think, and those ideas and the way to be adaptable really can help you, when it's on. I mean, we're sitting on a couch chatting about, what we think, but now it's on, and you got to make those adaptations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and I always go back to the different types of goals. There's a lot of different ways that people set goals. And Jim Peterson actually helped me with this concept of the input and the output goal. Input goals are things that you can do on a checklist, right? I can set my alarm. In college, I used to set 3 alarms. I was so nervous about missing the morning runs. I don't know why. Nothing happened to you if you missed the run. You just look like a jerk. But I'd set an alarm here and I'd set one on the other side of the room. But can you get yourself up at 6 a.m. every day? That's an input goal. That's my goal, to get up at 6 a.m. I can check that off a list. I can eat a boiled egg and an apple every day. I can check that off a list. I can go for a 30-minute run. I can do push-ups. I can do ball drills, whatever it is. I can check those things off the list. And they can be goals, but they're also tangible. I can do that. Then there's the output goal, the thing that you can't control. Being the president of the United States, being a world champion, being a championship team. There's other factors in there. You can't control, like you said, are you going to break your hand, or are you going to get a bad call, or a freak accident happens, or the other person's trying for the same thing and they have their willpower and things don't always go perfectly. There's things that you cannot control, but what you can do is really narrow down what you can control, mark those off the list, and be consistent and persistent and as intelligent as possible. And that's why you have great coaches. That's why you have peer groups. That's why you are observing and watching videos and doing your homework to say, okay, you know, what are the best guys doing? I remember being at wrestling tournaments in the 8th grade and watching all the guys that were really, really good and observing how much fun they were having. I mean, I remember, you know, a couple of things. Guys would be tucking their sweatshirts into sweatpants. Did that help? I don't know, but I was going to do it too. You know, I was emulating the best guys. Then you'd see the best guys messing around, having fun before their matches. And I was thinking, you know, I'm sitting there getting mentally prepared, a little nervous, etc. But you see these guys doing these things. So I would observe. And then I had one tape. I had a video cassette of the All-Star wrestling match for NCAA. So NCAA Division I National Tournament. I had a All-Star match where they had all the best players or best wrestlers from each division go against each other. And then I had a highlight video of the national tournament. I had those two tapes. I must have watched those tapes hundreds of times. And I mean, was I learning the technique necessarily? I'm not sure, but I got to see the mentality. I got to see what the best guys do. They don't give an inch, and they, you know, the things that were working for them. And those paid big dividends because I was taking the little resources I had and thinking outside the box and trying to gather information. And so that was always a big thing for me.
Yeah, from 8th grade till now, habits don't break. I heard in your interview with Joe Rogan that you kind of dug a little technique that Canelo Alvarez was doing with either a hook or an uppercut, how he kind of feinted it and then went on.
Big hook to an uppercut.
Yeah, and you brought that into your mix. So that started in 8th grade by you sitting around in the gym and observing everybody, man, and just carried on. So Shaq's got one for you.
So you're right, with Team Alpha Male and you being a coach, I saw an interview where somebody had asked you about what are the common pitfalls that you see on your team, and you spoke a little bit about the fighters sometimes spending too much time on the things that they're already good at. And I think as coaches, players who are always trying to player develop in, let's say we have a right-footed player, but we need them to work on their left foot. But if you see them out of the field, they're just constantly working on that right foot. So how is it that you go in there and kind of break them of that or get that message across for them?
Well, for our sport and for those that don't know our sport per se, it's a mixture of everything in the martial arts world or anything that you can do to win a fight. So it's wrestling, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, savate kickboxing, judo. I mean, the list goes on. Kung fu, karate, anything that you can use to do a fight. So mastering the fundamentals is a big important part of things. And the best game plan, because we have to get game plans just like you do in a football or a soccer situation. You have a game plan. Who's going to do what? You're going to put this person forward, this person back, and who you're going to get the ball to, etc. And for me, I've always said to my guys, look, we definitely want to prepare for the fight individually. Absolutely. Right. That's the most important fight of your life, the one that's right in front of you. But for us, the bigger goal is getting to a point in the game for a fighter where you're better than your opponent at everything. And that makes it for a very easy game plan. When there's an opening, you take it and you can go anywhere. So there's two mentalities. We're preparing for a specific fight, and there's the longer journey of mastering the sport as a whole. And so for the guys that aren't going to master the sport as a whole, the game plan is going to be very simple for them. Whatever they're good at, they're going to have to keep on going there, right? For a guy that becomes the all-around martial artist, you're all of a sudden having all sorts of scenarios where you can actually game plan. When you're a handicapped guy, the game plan is not going to differ very, very often, and that doesn't make a very, very good game plan. So my thing is, guys, you got to know what you're good at. You got to keep that strong, but we constantly have to be improving. You constantly have to be adding to your game, adding to your fight IQ, adding to, you know, your jiu-jitsu on the bottom and your jiu-jitsu on top, and the striking regimen that you have, and that kind of thing. But you always have to go back and keep strong with the fundamentals. But the best guys, the champions of the champions, Jose Aldo, John Bones Jones, you know, Cody Garbrandt, George St. Pierre, they have all sorts of different types of fights. They have submissions, and they have knockouts, and they have, you know, fights where they can outpoint a guy, and there's a lot more ways to win. So for us, absolutely, you have to, you know, improve on the areas that you're not in, and that's very important if you really want to master the sport. If you want to just do pretty good, then just do what you're good at and don't grow.
Yeah, great.
Right. So Ron and I both have mentioned Team Alpha Male, and that's your what do you call that? That's your management team, or that's your
that's my fight team. Like, you know,
team? Yeah.
Just like a wrestling team at UC Davis, we had you know, a certain amount of guys, and there's only a certain amount of weight classes. This is a team that has fighters from all over the world. I just went to Florida and cornered Song Yadong, who's a 22-year-old Chinese phenom who came out here when he was 17 and just got a flight himself, spoke no English, and showed up. We have Cody Garbrandt, who's about to fight on June 6th. He came out from Ohio. Same thing. He got a sponsor to pay for him to come out at one point, and has made this his home in Sacramento. And we have guys from Ireland and Scotland and Russia and Azerbaijan and China and Japan, Italy, all over the world that come to be a part of our team. And it started here in Sacramento with just myself and a couple of my friends that were, you know, having the same vision. So it started as it was me recruiting some of my buddies to really building a system and a reputation, and now attracting people from all over the globe to come and train here in Sacramento and represent across the globe. So we're fighters, maybe 60 fighters from all over the planet, and ranging in multiple weight classes, men and women.
So are people attracted to your team and want to come to your team because of a culture that you guys have that people are attracted to? Because, you know, we're constantly building and nurturing and pushing our culture at our club here with, you know, a mantra, better together, and other stuff like that. But is that what draws people globally to Sacramento to work with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. And we attract the kind of people that kind of mesh with us. And I think the culture of a team or a business or anything is very important. And it's a fickle thing. It can be disrupted by what we call cancer. And I learned that as a wrestling coach from my coach. You know, back in the day, it was basically, you know, lead by example. And then if somebody was rocking the boat, you had to address it. Lenny Zaleski taught me that. He was a coach of mine for 2 years, and then I coached alongside him for 2.5 years. And it'd be like, you know, negativity's festering up in the team, and you'd have to address it, talk to the person or whatever is stopping. Otherwise, it can, you know, infiltrate the team, and everybody's thinking negatively and everything else. So we've had our fair share of ups and downs when it comes to the culture being broken, but it always comes back to the leadership of the team, being a place where people are focused on doing good, on being kind to others. We watch out for each other, even though we're fighting each other on a daily basis. And it's turned out to be a great part of the recipe.
Right on. And you host that at your facility, right? Give us the name of your facility,
Yeah,
where it's at, and how you're kind of managing this COVID deal we're going through.
Yeah. So we actually just expanded another 12,500 square feet. So we're almost a 40,000 square foot facility now. We have anything a regular gym would have. We have free weights and dumbbells and treadmills and whatnot. but also a great mixed martial arts program. So we do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for kids, for adults. We do traditional boxing, Muay Thai kickboxing. We do wrestling, a lot of strength and conditioning classes. And so we have a little bit of everything. We have a big outdoor, 4,000, 5,000 square feet outside with indoor-outdoor turf. And yeah, it's a really cool spot. So if you're in the greater Sacramento area, we're right here in East Sac, right 6700 Folsom Boulevard. 65th and Folsom is kind of the closest cross street off of 50. We do a lot of cross training. It's great for mentality. So if people want to check that out, we'd love to host you guys.
Guys opening back up with pretty soon. Is that the game plan? You got the COVID strategy?
Yeah. So we've we had eight weeks where we were really strict and the place was shut down completely. And then we started having guys that had fights scheduled. So we've been doing, small groups that come in and kind of stay to themselves and get them prepared for fights. And then we're letting some of our personal trainers do some one-on-one stuff and use COVID-friendly things. We're supposed to do a reopening tomorrow, but we just got a bunch of news saying that they want everybody to, even though they're using COVID safe methods, to hold off. So we're just kind of waiting in limbo now. We were going to open up tomorrow, but just got a news thread that said, boutique gyms are not supposed to be even opening even with the COVID. Although Elk Grove, El Dorado Hills, Rockland, Auburn are all open.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. This is as they say every day in the news and every headline, unprecedented times, right? And so it's just try to do your best. So let's jump into some Q&A here. They've been piling in, and usually when we start this, they trickle in again. People get brave on the keyboard. So first question I saw is, when did you start jiu-jitsu?
I started jiu-jitsu right after wrestling in college. So I graduated college in 2003, and I stayed on as a wrestling coach. And that was the first thing I had done. I had only started jiu-jitsu about a month and a half prior to accepting my first fight. But it goes hand in hand with wrestling, so I picked it up really quickly.
Yeah, right on.
That was 2003.
What other techniques have you studied or mastering? And
yeah, so I would say I'm a high level, martial artist on a individual level. Jiu-jitsu, absolutely. Judo, so. Wrestling, super high level. Boxing and kickboxing, and then of course blending those together. So those are kind of the keys to martial arts, to mixed martial arts, and I've spent since 2003, putting together the boxing, kickboxing, and jiu-jitsu aspects, and been wrestling since 93, I guess, 1993. So it's a long time.
Yeah, man. I was at Sonoma State listening to Belle Viv DeVoe when you were doing that. So here's besides the "We love you, Uriah" statements on here, which is nice to feel the love.
Thank you.
What's the question? What's the most challenging thing when transitioning from the WEC to the UFC?
A lot of people don't know that the WEC was actually owned by the UFC on most of the fights that you've ever seen on TV, because the WEC fights used to be on free TV all the time on the Versus channel. During that time, it was owned by the UFC, so it was the same back end, the same people writing the checks, the same bosses, and everything else. It was just two organizations that were being cornered. So it hadn't been a huge difference. It was just better, bigger exposure with the UFC. The fights were just as hard, but it was just a whole different animal because the exposure was so much more. And that was 2011 when they combined the WEC with the UFC.
Okay. Yeah. Right on. Here's one that says, how hard was it? Because you were a good student athlete in high school. how hard was it to balance school and athletics in college?
Yeah, college was tough, and I actually found that I was doing better during wrestling season because I had to be so precise with my time. I remember, and I need to do this now because it was a great asset to staying on schedule. I would have to make a schedule by like the 45-minute, 15-minute increments. I would just have it etched out to where I knew exactly what I was doing, and a lot of times I would end up falling asleep in the library. And I've spent the night in the library plenty of times, and so and also in college it was we were having fun too, and Dustin, my roommate, Soderman, Ron's cousin, and Dave Shapiro and Ian Fishburne, those guys all played baseball. I wrestled, and then we had the Mattiolis that played soccer.
Yep.
Zach and Vinny Mattioli that played soccer. So those were my roommates in college. So we each had a season. So that means the other guys did not have a season. So I remember coming in during when the World Cup was on, and Zach and Vinny Mattioli would have, and their brother would all be up. They'd been up till like 6 a.m. and I was just getting up for practice, and they'd been up watching soccer on binges, just living the dream. So it was a great experience. College was great for understanding how to have self-discipline. I almost got kicked out of the dorms my freshman year. I went from living in the country on 10 acres in Lincoln to being in the dorms where I was monitored by other kids at my age. They were getting their free stays by doing that. And I was just not used to being like, you have to be quiet after 9:30 and you can't like do this and do that. I was like a freaking wild man, and not anything bad, but just not used to being, restricted per se. And so I got in a bunch of trouble and had to get my head on straight right off the bat. So don't make that mistake if you're going to college. Guys, understand that there is, society. You have to fit in a box. You can't be a wild man.
That is great advice.
You go from acreage to a 10 by 12 room, right, with two dudes in there.
With 7 roommates that are, some are playing video games all day. I used to have a roommate. His name was Hui Tron, but he went by Tony, and he had like the skinny little guy, and he was all on video games, so he'd be up all night playing video games, and he had his video game set up, so it was like every time he punched a button, it was like a karate noise. It was like, yeah. He kept locking me out of my house because he'd sleep throughout the day, and I'm like, man, talk about getting thrown into a new environment and having to adapt. It was pretty wild. I almost got in trouble. I had to be resourceful and kiss some butt to stay in the good graces and finish my college career. So I'm happy for that. Dustin was with me.
That's awesome. So we had one last question. So are you retired? You're not going to take any more fights, or?
You know what? I almost got in a fight this last weekend, last minute. I went there to corner my guy, and his visa issue almost, was not going to go through. And I had told the matchmakers that, hey, just keep trying, and if worst case scenario, I'll hop in. So I almost hopped in last minute on the UFC and fought Chito Vera, but I don't know. I'll probably maybe do one more, maybe 2 more. We'll see.
What weight class was that?
Well, I weighed in. They had me cut like 8 pounds just to get within just close to the guy that I would have possibly been fighting.
Yeah.
But normally I'd be fighting 135, and I weigh about 161.
160. You walk around at 161.
Yeah, 161 to 162, something like that.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Well, Ron, do you got anything else? Because
I know
one just popped up, but let's see. Do you have anything, Ron?
No, I just are you ready to end it, or are you asking another question on there?
Well, yeah, I just saw another question. I was gonna wrap it, but it's a pretty good one. Injuries? Anything besides 2 broken hands and ribs and stuff from training injuries that have kept you out for extended times, and how do you stay strong there?
I've been pretty lucky when it comes to injuries. I mean, I guess I could name off my injuries, and you may think differently, but I'm lucky in my profession for having 46 professional fights and a long wrestling career as well. I had one small knee injury that held me out of a fight. I had during a fight, I had a hematoma from my hip to my ankle on my leg from getting kicked by Jose Aldo, but no structural damage, so I was okay there. I broke my rib quite a few times in fights, and I famously broke this right hand in the first round of a 5-round fight here in Sacramento against Mike Brown, who hit him right in the forehead, shattered the 4th and 5th metacarpal. I've got some metal in there, and then dislocated my thumb in the 2nd round. So that's pretty much it when it comes to injuries, aside from getting rocked here and there. But that's, and then this chin, it keeps getting bigger. I've got probably 40-something different sutures throughout time from just this thing's always getting in the way,
Yeah, right on. That's like Glass Joe from the old Tyson game, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right on. So if you don't have anything else, Shaq, we'll just say let Urijah go. He's been very gracious with his time, and hope you enjoyed it, man, just having a chat with a couple guys and a few hundred of our soccer family.
Yeah, so I've got my baby Callie, so I'm sure she'll be getting into soccer sometime soon. And I'm from San Juan School District. I went to Mission Avenue Elementary School from kindergarten through 6th grade. So I've got a sweet, soft spot in my heart for all the athletes out there. I've heard a lot of people speak when I was growing up, and Dan Gable, who's one of the best wrestlers of all time in the U.S. and one of the best coaches of all time, said this as well, as always just having almost like just being gullible, just believing what you're told. I've heard so many different people talk, and I tried to just take the most from it. So I hope the kids at home take what I'm saying serious. Believe in yourself, think big, and believe that anything is possible, because it really is. And then do all those little things that will help you get there, things that you can check off a list. The more steady you stay on those things that you can control, the higher you're going to get with your own accomplishments, and the closer you're going to get to the things that you really, really want. So just stay consistent, and I hope to meet you guys soon. Come to the gym, and we'll get you guys in the off-season training.
Right on. Hey, thanks so much, Urijah. We really appreciate it. We're gonna throw this on our social media channels, and we'll tag you guys in it. So feel free to repost as you wish. And for Shaq and I, appreciate it very much.
Thanks,
You
Urijah.
got it, man. Ron, I've never heard the nickname Shaq before. I dig it. It's good stuff, buddy.
Hey, thanks.
You got to get a Shaq Alpha Male shirt.
I love it. No, it was fun. It was fun to hear some old names like the Mattiolis, because we had some good times back in the day. So I really appreciate it, man. You, again, as generous as you are with your time, a world champ, to give back to the community and be as accessible as you were. I mean, I reached out to Dustin, boom, you accepted right away, and I just can't tell you how much that means to our club, all the athletes out there that are aspiring to be great. Really appreciate your time tonight.
Absolutely, man. Love it. You guys are my community, so appreciate you. Have a good one.
All right.
Thanks, Urijah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So if you could just stop the broadcast, Ron, and then it'll automatically start recording.
Okay, so where do I hit that?
Do
Do I have to hit end meeting for all right now, or?
Yeah, that's you.